In a sign of growing bonhomie between the world's two biggest economies, U.S. President Donald Trump is embarking on a visit to China from the 31st of March to the 2nd of April. His previous visit to the country was in November 2017 during the first term of his presidency. The bilateral ties between the two sides have seen ups and downs since Trump commenced his second term in office. After the initial tariff war, both sides backed down in May last year, while the U.S. agreed to lower its tariffs from 145% to 30%. China, meanwhile, decided to drop its retaliatory tariffs from 125% to 10%. Beyond that, the situation escalated again in October 2025, when Trump, remember, threatened to levy 100% more tariffs on China, citing its export curbs on rare earths. And a month later, the scenario evolved after the U.S. president met Xi Jinping. Subsequently, Trump announced a trade and economic deal with China. And according to him, China promised to eliminate export controls on rare earth elements and other critical minerals, end its retaliation against U.S. semiconductor manufacturers, and resume the purchase of soybeans. So while there is great anticipation about the possible outcomes from the upcoming meeting, it has also evoked memories of the first ever visit of a U.S. president to China and how Beijing has repeatedly reaped advantage of American overtures. To start with, the U.S. had no diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China since its formation in 1949. Instead, it recognized the Taiwan-based Republic of China as the legitimate government of China. However, U.S. sought for a reconciliation with Beijing to improve ties with the communist governments in wake of the Vietnam War, undermine alliances between communist countries, and also increase leverage against the Soviet Union, which was endangering China as well. So in February 1972, Richard Nixon became the first U.S. president to visit mainland China in office. The visit paved way for the establishment of formal diplomatic relations between the two countries from 1979 onwards. As per the joint statement, Beijing got a major boost as America recognized Taiwan as part of China. It also terminated diplomatic ties and a mutual defense treaty with Taiwan. And this effectively ended China's isolation in the West and safeguarded it from the Soviet Union. However, China is perceived to have benefited more from this agreement as it persisted with its unique political governance and economic model while steering clear of any interference from the West in a way. Additionally, the Chinese government enhanced its ties with Russia in the 1990s. After the fall of the Soviet Union, China is also believed to be working towards establishing its hegemony in the Asia-Pacific region, something it agreed not to do as part of that agreement with the U.S. China's failure to keep its commitment in a way also came into focus when the Phase 1 trade deal was signed between the U.S. and China in January 2020. For instance, the Xi Jinping-led government committed to increase the volume of U.S. imports by more than $200 billion over a period of 2 years. This included a variety of U.S. food, agricultural, seafood, energy products. But data indicating that China bought only 58% of the U.S. goods, which it agreed to buy by the end of 2021. Also, U.S. exports to China in 2020 were $16 billion lower than 2017, just to give you the context. And as Trump eyes furthering ties with China, Taiwan remains the sticking point, of course, with Beijing making its reservation absolutely clear over the $11 billion arms package announced by America.